I'm Dave Schwartz alongside Alex Wilson. Good to have you aboard for Weather Center Live.
The exits are here and here if you are aboard. Hey, this is one of those weeks when you've got a lot of questions about the weather, but don't worry, we have you covered.
And we have new developments on one of the big stories from last week.
911, where's your emergency?
Tornado touching down, Trop and Broadway, tornado touching down.
Trop and Broadway, tornado touching down?
Yeah.
That was one of the 911 calls authorities in Moore, Oklahoma received in the frantic minutes after last week's tornado.
We are going to share more of the calls throughout the show, and you'll learn what residents reported and how officials responded.
But first, it's the weather story that refuses to go away. We all know what that is, right? It's the cold in the eastern half of the country with the snow and the cold in the northeast. A clipper with more snow and chilly rain blew through Buffalo overnight and today. And
it all comes on the heels of back-to-back winters with more than 100 inches of snow. Our Scott Newell has that story from the banks of a very frozen Lake Erie. Turning now to the north, much further north in Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's where the investigation is underway into what caused a plane to skid off a runway, injuring at least 25 people. CBC's Preston Mulligan says weather's role is under debate. And that is just one story that we're tracking for you right now on the world weather front. We've also got a typhoon that we're following.
Carl, thanks a lot. You know, it would be a shame to have to put that clear plastic thingy over your Easter bonnet on Sunday.
You don't want to do that.
Protect it
you
from
don't
the
look
sun.
as fancy. But, you know, even with the cold, we are seeing some signs of spring that make us feel a little bit better, like the annual Kite Festival in the nation's...
But first, we want to bring you up to speed on the weather challenges you will face today.
Absolutely. And you know what? It does include more spring snow. You're going to see it a couple of times this week, courtesy of two different systems. Should I tell the folks?
Yeah.
All right, I got you covered. We call these systems clippers, and we have two of them right now across parts of the east. The first one really into New York and New England. The second one offering up rain to parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So let's start with the first, where we've got snow in the northern parts of New York, also Bangor, Maine, and Buffalo. You're finally seeing that snow wrap up. It's in the mid-30s there, low 40s in Syracuse, where we've seen some rain showers. Mainly rain out into parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but later tonight we will be watching for some snow into parts of the UP of Michigan, even central lower Michigan. Very cold air stays off to the north, but that dip in the jet stream allows that storm system to just dive right around the northeast. It's going to move quickly, though, so these systems don't add big accumulations because they are moving on the fast side. There's the forecast for tonight. Rain and snow in the pink, the snow in the blue. By tomorrow, we're going to see that rain-snow mix into northern PA, snow for the southern tier of New York, even getting around Williamsport and, say, Wellsboro, Bradford. For Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, just rain for you guys. Dave. Carl Parker, and we're talking still about some cold, wintry weather for some.
Yeah, we are still talking about winter. And
we've got to, you know, this part of the country, they say, it's part of the deal, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, and part of the problem is that you've still got a lot of snow cover on the ground there, and that's helping to chill the air, and it makes it harder for those troughs to finally get out of there. So we'll look at the pattern through the week. Another wave of cold, then it warms up a little bit, and then going into the weekend, here's the next big wave, and that is going to be preceded by a storm that's going to bring us some rain along 95, but then a mix Friday night in the interior northeast. And then on Saturday, it's going to be snow in Pennsylvania, New York State, northern New England. That'll continue into the afternoon and then wind down by Saturday night, but it's going to be fairly windy across a lot of the northeast on Saturday night, and that's of course going into the big holiday.
Now, kids at home, the Easter Bunny is insulated. He's got the fur, so he'll be able to deal with it, but it might not be as fun for your, you know, Easter egg hunt that day or even the day after.
Easter egg hunts and all that. That's, you know, and you expect for it to be warm outside and the sun shining and all that. You know, it's too bad. It really is. We are seeing some signs of some pattern changing, though, and that's good in the west in particular. And we're actually watching this storm that's on the other side of the world. That's the Western Pacific.
Yeah, this is Japan here.
That's Japan right there. Very strong little storm here, a little dynamo showing up out of the ocean. And what it's going to do is come across the ocean and then drop down to the west coast, and then it's going to slow down. And that's good.
And wouldn't that be some great news if we saw a slow system that's able to bring wet weather to the west?
Exactly. So it starts to really bring it in on Monday. This continues right through Monday into Tuesday, and then even into Wednesday as it's barely moving. And so the models are telling us that we could be looking at 2 to 3 inches of rain in pretty large areas. this in Northern California. It finally starts to wind down, we think, on Wednesday. Now, when we think about the drought in California, if you think about the rain that's coming in and the snow that's coming in, you can think of that like income, like the money that you get in a given year. So now that we have that income coming in, this is our checking account. This is our short-term reserve here. These are the reservoirs in California, and there are a lot of them. Lake Shasta would typically be about 3/4 full right now. Right now it's about 2/3 full, or not quite that, 58% full. And a lot of the reservoirs are in similar shape. So they've got water in the reservoirs, but again, these are short-term reserves. They don't last that long. They don't last for years and years and years. You got to have that income continuing to come in to keep money in that checking account. So we've got a longer-term savings, more like a retirement account. And that is this groundwater. And this is the groundwater over many decades. The yellow periods are the drier periods, the green periods are the wetter periods. So we had some replenishment of groundwater in those wetter periods, but clearly the trend line is down, and that is an enormous amount of water. So this is what's really disconcerting. We've got to keep the income up. We've got to keep the checking accounts up if we don't have as much in our retirement savings.
Absolutely. And right now we're seeing some lacking in a couple of those areas. So, all right, thank you so much, Carl. Good way to think of it. I like that.